Okay, so the next part of the roof we're going to work on are the R2 and the R3 pieces. These, of course, will need to be trimmed out, and even the backside of them, but we'll do that later. What we have to do right now is to go ahead and get these at a 45-degree angle and put the peaks on them. To do this, I'm sort of cheating here. I've got a corner made out of Legos for this, and I've got a little corner made out of Legos for here. What I can do is this 90-degree wall of Legos, I'm just going to lay this roof over to make sure it's a 45-degree angle. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to file the top here. And then I'm going to glue one of these peaks onto the end. And then I'll go ahead and glue the ridges down on it. And on the small one right here, it's the same thing. I'm just going to take and make sure that I've got the angle part towards the back. So we're going to be gluing to the front here. So put it down on here to make sure it goes 45-degree angles. I'm going to file it off. I'm going to put a little cap on it, and I'm going to go ahead and put ridge pieces going all the way back. Now this part's optional, but I think it's kind of handy to have them in there. On the plan with the R3, I've also got these little squares. They're 2" by 2" squares cut diagonally, and I make 2 of those. And what you'll end up with are 4 triangles about this size with a 45-degree angle on the top. And what we can do is we're just going to take those and we're going to glue those on the underside of the roof like this, just to help it keep its 45-degree angle shape. I put one in the main roof that goes on the front part here, and the other 3 I'm going to flip upside down, and I'm just going to glue underneath the roof here. Don't glue them too close to the edge because you actually have a peak of a wall that's going to hit there. So I would glue one in the middle, and I would glue one probably about 1 inch from each edge. The one for the R2 here, you want to glue a little ways back. Don't glue it right near the front because we have the front porch beams that are going here. Now this next part is going to be one of the more difficult parts of the whole project. What we have to do is we have to trim these off of here without destroying the roof. And this is what makes this a more difficult project. You're just going to have to take your time on this. One thing that you probably absolutely need are a pair of tile nippers to do this. And what we're going to do is we're going to tile nip this not all the way down to this mat board line here that forms the roof. Don't take it down that far because our roof is going to be too short in the wrong angle if we do. You're going to have to take it close, but leave probably about 1/8 of an inch away from it. Because even though it seems pretty obvious that this is just going to be a straight line, it's not exactly a straight line. It's a compound angle. In other words, it goes 45 degrees this way, but it's also coming out 45 degrees this way. So it's not as simple of an angle as you might think. We're going to turn this thing over, and I'm going to take my tile nippers, and you don't want to get in a hurry when you do this. Do not get in a hurry. I'm going to take it down to what I've got about 1/2 inch left. And I'm just going to, actually I would start at the end and nip a little bit. Okay, see, I already broke a row off there. Well, that's not a big deal. But it is a big deal when you go further down. If I break another row off, that may put me down further than I need to. Let's go ahead and take this off right here. Let's see if I can just go and break one little edge. Ah, okay, there. I broke an edge. Nip a little bit more off. Break an edge. Oh, okay. Well, see, I don't want to go too far down. I don't want to lose another one because that's going to be kind of a problem in there when I take that. So I'm going to try to nip this out without losing any more on the roof if I possibly can. Okay. Now, at this point, I think I'm going to start down on the next row. Let's get this one here, and we'll start nibbling it away and trying to take it down. Okay, we broke a little bit more here. Okay, and I lost a little bit more of this piece. That's why I said this was difficult. This piece right here is probably going to have to be glued back on because there's a chunk taken out a little bit further than I wanted to. That's just one of the difficult things about this. We will just have to try and do our best. So I am going to hang on to that piece. I'm going to hold this piece sort of here with my finger while we do it and try not to lose any more on here, if at all possible. So let's just take this down a little bit more. And it might be better to kind of work at it with the use an edge of this nipper to kind of nip back a little bit. So let's kind of chew it off a little bit, and don't try to take off too much. I want to chew it down until I get about 1/8 of an inch. Okay. You'll see I broke another little piece like there. So I'm just going to hold those in place with my finger and try to chew this down just a little bit closer. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these back in place so I can sand it. Okay, that's probably about as close as I'm going to get without, you know, maybe destroying more than I want to. Okay. Take it down. Take it down. Okay. And let's try going up here. Now, at this point, I don't know if you noticed, I broke another little piece, but it's still kind of glued in place. I really can't go any further down than that before I start the sanding process. And like I said, these pieces, hang on to them because we're going to have to glue them in later. Now, there are probably going to be times where you realize that you can't find the piece that actually went missing there. Like this one right here, I simply can't find that piece, but it's not the end of the world. We are going to fill this edge with caulking before we glue it onto the house so it's going to fill any cracks. And this is going to be in the valley groove in there. Now at this point what we're going to do, since everything is dry back on here, I'm going to go ahead and sand this down and try to get it to fit onto the front of the roof here. Now basically we want to take it probably close to where the mat board is, but you know, we don't have to take it all the way there. The only thing that matters is that when you put it on the roof here, it actually meets against there fairly flat. And if it does, well, that's probably good enough because we're going to put caulking under it, push it on there and glue it in place. If you don't sand as much off, it simply means that this roof is going to extend out a little further than we intended. Now at this point we're going to use some paintable caulking to glue this thing into place. It will hold it in place and it will also kind of fill the gaps as we go down. Because this looks pretty rough, but it's really not a big deal because once we dry brush it, the shingles will highlight up, but the cracks probably won't. So we're just going to fill the cracks as best we can. I think the easiest way to do this is get your roof set at the angle you need it to be. Take a pencil or a marker of some kind, and what we're going to do is we're going to draw down the side. And it's either drawing up, I think, is more of a problem, but draw down the side so we have kind of a line of exactly where this thing's meet. And then when you lift this off, you'll have a definite, you know, pencil line of where it goes. Okay, let's see how we do here. Now, no matter what, caulking is just messy, sticky stuff. So do your best with it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to squeeze it out. And this stuff is kind of thick and it doesn't always go where you want. So I'm going to squeeze it down into the crack. Put just a little daub on the surface. Squeeze it down into the next crack. Put a little daub on the surface. Squeeze it down into the next crack. Little daub on the surface. And you know, if you want, you can sort of test by putting this thing against it and see what it's going to do. It looks like it's going to push against there, and I don't have a whole lot squeezing out. And we're going to wipe it down when we get done, so it looks like that I can kind of grab it and push it down like that. So it looks like I've got probably a good bead going across there. What you want to do is after you get it on, you want to take this and you want to sort of push it against the roof. Kind of wiggle it, work it a bit. And then after you do that, pull it back off and look at the back side and make sure that you've got good contact. You've got lots of drops that are kind of pulled away. So you know you've got caulking that's actually sticking to the roof, because this is what's going to have to stick the roof on. And then if you want, we can take a paper towel, we can fold it up a few times to get us like this. We'll just dip it in some water and then just kind of gently go down the edge, and if there's any excess there, that'll kind of clean that up a little bit. Okay, and by the same respect, I'm also going to paint the roof a rust-colored primer, and just try to get this from all angles. And any rust-colored primer will probably do just fine. Just get it from all the different angles, let it dry a little bit, and hit it again. I don't know if you can tell, but it's like really windy out here, and I'm surprised I can get anything done without it blowing away. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and dry brush the light red onto the roof. This, of course, was spray painted with the rust-colored primer. And as far as the red, basically, we're going to dry brush it pink. This mixture right here is about half red, half white, with a little bit of yellow added to it. Not much yellow, just some to kind of peach it up a little. I thought the yellow kind of made it blend a little bit better with the rest of the house rather than just straight pink. And I am just going to very gently start dry brushing this. And we do actually want to see the pink on the tiles. I don't want it to be, you know, you should take several strokes before you start seeing the pink come out. But, you know, go different directions. Try to get it down in the cracks as best you can. But, you know, it's one of those things that the cracks in this are so deep that you will never get this color all the way down in. So after, before, and that will kind of give you an idea. And that's really all I'm going to do for this. I don't want this to be so, I don't want the tiles to be so glaring individually that it you know, takes your eye away from the rest of the house. I want this to be sort of subdued a little bit. Okay, here's all the pieces we need for our roof dormers. This is enough for one roof dormer. This is enough for another. Basically, what we have are the angles here. We're going to glue these angles back to back. And we're going to glue them so that when you glue them back to back, the brick is going the same direction. Okay, now that the brick panels are glued back to back, what we're going to do is we're going to glue them onto the back of the window like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this thing, be sure the painted side is forward, and we're just going to glue it on the top like that. The final step in assembling the dormers after this part is dry is to go ahead and put the roof on. Now you'll notice on our roof that you can see the cardstock kind of at an angle at the underneath of what the roof was. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this underneath of here. And when we glue this in place, we want to be sure that the angle of this doesn't go beyond that angle line. In other words, if I positioned this back like this, that's going to be too far back. Okay, let's glue it into place. The only real place to glue this to is on each side of this. So we've got one edge right here that's got to be glued really well, and then we've got the back edge right here that's got to be glued really well. So let's take and position it in here and make sure it's about the right distance back, right about there. Squeeze it in nice, make sure the glue makes good contact, and there we go. Okay, now we have the extremely difficult part that these are dry of actually sanding or cutting these roofs down so that they set all completely flat. What we want is we want a straight line completely flat going all the way up the side of the roof. Now, I can trim this away, but if you trim it away using these tools here, you're going to have to really take your time and you're going to have to nibble away at it. So just go very, very small bits at a time and try to work your way up the back. Just started it. Okay. So right here, I'm going to have to glue this back into place. I should have started from the peak and worked my way down. This is probably going to happen to you. So just to let you know, that's why this is kind of a difficult process to do. I'm going to go ahead and chew this down just a little bit more. Okay. Now at this point, things are starting to fall apart a little bit here, and I knew they would. So I'm going to hang on to these pieces, and at this point right here, I'm going to re-glue these pieces back in, and I'm just going to let this thing dry completely. Then we're going to flip it over and we're going to go ahead and sand it to the rest of the way, because clipping probably isn't going to do us any more good at this point. Now, if you chose to do your dormers and didn't throw them away in frustration, all we have to do really is glue these onto the side of the house. Here's my suggestion for the best position for these. I would go not at the very edge, not at the next one, but the next one up from that. That one right there is pretty good, or even the next group of tiles is pretty good. Either 2 tiles up or 3 tiles up, whichever you think the front face of this is about equal with the front face of whatever we have. So either 2 tiles under it or 3 tiles under it. It's basically your choice. As far as side to side, I would choose it to where the side wall is resting on the peak of the tiles, not resting over a big gap. Because right there you got it resting over a big gap and it looks like the dormer is disjointed somehow. So instead of trying to cut this roof and make it drop down in and all that, just slide it down to where the side of this meets the peak of the roof tile on both sides as close as possible, and then just simply glue those into place. Once you get both windows positioned, I used a piece of this blue painter's tape just to kind of hold it up in position while the glue dries. Occasionally check it, 5 minutes later to make sure it hasn't leaned or done anything weird. I'll do a quick spin around of the project here. Basically, there's the front going around to the side, and you can see the chimney lines up on the side like that, and it comes back around to where the water wheel is, and you can see the water, how that works. That effect worked pretty good. We've got the little bay window that sticks out, and then on this side of the house we've got the part here that sticks out above the side of the house, and then we're going around back to the front of the house.